You've heard these two terms countless times, BTO and Resale HDB. But what do they mean? BTOs are often said to be cheaper. But is it true? And what will you need to sacrifice in order to get one of these BTOs? On the other hand, resale HDBs are known to be more expensive. Yes. But did you know that the grants that you get for a resale HDB is higher than a BTO? Are there any other benefits of getting a resale HDB besides the reduced wait time? Besides just time and money, what other things do you need to consider when choosing between the two? Let's find out. Besides these two ways, there is also another way called the SBF or Sales of Balance Flat. But let's park that aside and talk about it in a different video. Today, we'll be focused on just the two main ways, the BTO and the resale. If you want to know more about the SBF process, let me know in the comment section as well. In the past videos, we've covered things like how to avoid cash overvaluation or COV, as well as some condo rate flags. And in the next few videos, we'll be talking about cheap condos near the MRT, and whether you should pay your loan off early. If you are interested in other topics that would help with buying a HDB or a condo, remember to subscribe for more videos. In order to analyze or even overanalyze every aspect between a BTO and a resale HDB, we first need to know what all these aspects are. But before we get there, I'll first explain the differences between a resale HDB and a BTO. If you are already familiar and want to skip ahead to the meat and potatoes, I'll leave the link in the description below. Let's start with the first way. BTO stands for built to order. These are brand new flats sold by the government. These flats are only built to your order. They are not built ahead of the order. So HDB only builds them when they get confirmation of your actual demand via your ballot. These BTO exercises are typically held 4 times a year, and each exercise will have a set of projects that applicants can choose to ballot for. The applicant is only allowed to choose one project per exercise. A BTO is a lot like the MTO in the manufacturing world. MTO stands for manufactured to order, and that means that an item is only manufactured when an order is received. This is opposed to the MTS, which stands for made to stock. In MTS, products are made based on a demand forecast, stocked, and then set waiting for an actual order to be placed. So you're probably asking yourself, why am I telling you all these? I'm telling you all these because this is the main reason behind the long wait times for BTO units. BTOs are only built when an order is received through the BTO exercise, not in anticipation of orders. Now your next question may be, why not just build them ahead of time anyway? We know there will always be demand. Needless to say, I'm not HDB, so I can't say for sure, but I believe that the reason why they don't do this is to prevent an oversupply of housing. Imagine if the government just kept building homes without any confirmation of the actual demand. We could end up in a situation where there are too many empty homes and not enough demand to absorb the whole. The irony is that now we face too much demand instead. Anyway, back to the BTO process. Once you make an application, you will be given a queue number if your ballot is successful. Applicants are then called by their queue number to choose a unit on a first come, first served basis. I've cut out a lot of detail that I'm not going through the full process here. So if you want to know more about this process in more detail, and you want me to do a full video, let me know in the comment section below. After you have chosen your unit, you would then have to wait for it to be built, which is approximately 3 years. After the unit is built, you can then collect your keys and you can move. Between choosing your unit and moving in is where all the things like the grants and the loans would come in. Now then, after moving into your unit, you would be required to stay in it and not be able to sell it for the next 5 years. This is called the MOP or minimum occupancy period. Should you then choose to sell your unit after the 5 years is up, it would then be classified as a resale unit to the next buyer. That brings us very nicely to our second option, the resale HDB option. After staying in their new BTO for the first 5 years, they can then sell it off, and you as a buyer would be buying it from them as a resale unit. This means that the HDB unit is sold from one private party to a second private party in the resale market, and that is why it's called a resale HDB. Buying a resale HDB would mean that you'll be buying it from somebody who either got it from HDB or somebody who got it from somebody who got it from HDB. In short, that would mean you are the second, third, fourth, or fifth owner. One big benefit of buying a resale unit is that the house is already built, so you won't have to wait 3 years or so for HDB to actually build the place. Similar to a BTO, in most cases, you as a buyer would be entitled to some HDB grants. We'll be covering that in more detail. In terms of similarities, there is also the concept of a 5-year MOP. After staying in the unit for 5 years and fulfilling the MOP, you would as well be free to sell it off to another resale buyer. In order to answer the question of whether you should go for a resale HDB or a BTO, We first need a basis of comparison. As the title suggests, there is a lot more than just the price. So here are all the 7 aspects that I think that we should consider. I'm certain that there are more than 7, so if you feel that I missed anything out, let me know in the comment section below. Of course, the first aspect that we want to consider is the price. Generally, BTOs are cheaper. Taking a look at some of the options in some of the recent exercises, you can see that it is possible to secure a BTO for as low as 400 to 500k. Resale HDBs, on the other hand, tend to be more expensive. While the price varies a lot, you can see that a relatively new unit can set you back by 700 over k. The increased price also means that your profit will not be as high when you sell off a unit as compared to a BTO. Furthermore, for resale HDBs, as they are not brand new, you will not be getting a full 99-year lease as well. Let's take an example of a BTO and a newly MOP unit that are close by to do a quick comparison. Within the Tampines area, we have Tampines Green Topaz, which is a new BTO project launched in 2024. Its 4-room units are priced around 445k before grants. Close by, we also have Tampines Green Terrace, a project which just reached TOP in 2014, which means that it reached MOP around 2019. While this particular unit is asking for 800k, on the resale market, its 4 rooms are typically transacting around 770k. So that is about 300k more than the BTO option. I know that it is not a 100% fair comparison, but it's just to illustrate that there is a bit of a premium to be paid for resale units. But this is not the full picture yet. Even when we talk about price, there is also the element of grants. For the grants, to keep things simple, there are generally 3 main ones. The Enhanced CPF Housing Grant, known as the EHG, is the first one. This is up to 80k and it is tiered depending on how much your household income is. The HDB Family Grant is the second one. This is 80k and you can get it if your combined income is less than 14k. And finally, the Proximity Grant is the third one. This is 20k and you can get it if you are staying within 4 km of your parents. If you were to buy a resale HDB, you would qualify for all 3 grants, and there is a good chance you can get over 100k worth of grants in total. However, if you were to get a BTO, you would only be eligible for the EH. Let's look at an example of a couple making a combined income of 8k to do a comparison. For a couple with a combined income of 8k, if they were to buy a HDB, they would be eligible for only the EHG, which would be only 10k. If they were to buy a resale HDB, however, on top of the EHG, they would also be entitled to the family grant, which is 80k. Furthermore, they are also entitled to the proximity grant, which is 20k, if they stay within 4 km of their parents. If you look at it solely from a grants perspective, then yes, a resale option would have more grants. But let's take a step back and consider it holistically, and also consider the cost of the unit. That will paint a better picture of the total cost of purchase. For the BTO option, if you recall, the price was much lower at 445k. As your grants will be 10k, that means that your total cost would be 435k. For the resale option, it was more expensive to start with at 770k. Yes, your grants for the resale option are higher overall. Assuming that the couple only gets the enhanced housing grant and the family grant, that is a total of 90k worth of grants. Let's assume that they don't qualify for the proximity grant. After deducting this 90k, that would be a total of 680k, which is still more expensive than the BTO option. For BTOs, the sticker price is lower, and yes, while the grants are lower, overall you would end up paying less. For the resale option, even though the grants are higher, the sticker price is so much higher that eventually you would end up paying more. Here is how I make sense of the situation. Firstly, the government typically sells the BTO at a discount of the market price, while another human being selling to you may not be so kind to do. Secondly, while yes, the resale grants are higher, they are not able to make up entirely for the increased price of the resale unit. Prices and grants, the financial aspects of the discussion. However, when making such a large decision, you should also consider non-financial aspects as well. One such non-financial aspect is the wait time. Between a BTO and a resale unit, the wait time can differ very substantially. From what I've observed, and in my personal opinion as well, after the price, the wait time is typically the second largest factor. The wait time for a resale unit can actually be very quick. You can get your keys as quickly as 3 months after officially saying yes and signing the option to purchase. You can think of the option to purchase as something like a document which helps you to chope your unit. Exercising the option means officially buying it after choping. Occasionally, if the seller wants more time, they may request for an extension of up to 3 months, which means that you may have to wait 3 months longer before you can actually move in. Of course, you should always remember that the extension time is negotiable. They may ask for the extension because they may need to stay in the unit for a slightly longer period of time, perhaps because they are waiting for their next unit to be ready. If you count these 3 months in, that would bring your total wait time up to a total of 6 months. So that means your wait time for a resale unit is somewhere between 3 to 6 months. BTOs, on the other hand, are very different. As we talked about earlier, when you ballot and choose your BTO unit, the unit has actually not been built yet. That means that you need to actually wait for it to be built before you can move in. That brings your total wait time to be about 3 years. Most people would either stay at their parents' house or rent while waiting. If you plan to rent, remember that this adds up to cost as well. This brings up another question. Does it make sense to take up a BTO at a cheaper price and pay for renting while you wait for it? I'm not sure. Have you ran the numbers for something like this? Let me know in the comment section below if this is something that you would like me to do a video on. But the wait of a BTO is not the 3-year wait of just having to wait to collect your keys. Remember that earlier we talked about the minimum occupancy period of 5 years as well? This 3-year wait means that the countdown clock to the start of your 5-year MOP starts 3 years later as well. That brings your total commitment period of a BTO unit to be 3 plus 5 years to be about 8 years in total. So the question is, are you willing to commit 8 years or even more to a single BTO unit? Remember that in a span of 8 years, a lot of things can change. For example, your family needs, your income, or your plans. While there is nothing wrong with this, you just have to ensure that you're not starting this process prematurely. Having a BTO when the relationship is not stable adds another layer of complexity which you may have not accounted for. Moving on, when we talked about the timeline of your home, we only talked about how the wait time varies between a HDB and a resale. However, if you think about it, the wait time is only one element. There is a second element that we need to consider, which is the element of control. Now, what do I mean by control? Let's say you were to buy a resale flat, the timeline is relatively simple. You search online for a unit that you like, and then you go down and do the viewing. After you have done the negotiation and the price is right, you can make the decision to purchase. Within 3 to 6 months, you have a HDB under your name, which you can then either move in or start your renovation work. This is a relatively simple process and you are in control of most of the elements here. Buying a BTO, however, does not give you so much control. In the whole process, the first challenge is to be successful in your application and to get a queue number that would enable you to go down and choose a unit that you like. This by itself is a very big wildcard. I know of some people who have gotten a good queue number on their first try, and on the flip side, some people have waited and tried more than 8 times and still have not been able to be successful. Considering that there are 4 BTO exercises per year, 8 times would mean a total wait of 2 years. And all this is even before the 3 years you need to wait for the home to be built. So all in all, choosing to go down the BTO path would give you a lot less control of your timeline. The other aspect that you may want to consider is the location. Location can be important for many reasons. Some people may want to stay as near to their parents as possible, but maybe some people may want to stay as far from their parents as possible. Some people may want to stay as near to the MRT as possible, but some people want to be as far from the bustle as possible. If you were to go down the BTO route, your options for location is very limited. As we talked about earlier, there are only 4 BTO exercises per year. Within each exercise, the government only releases a few projects for balloting, and these few projects are essentially all your options. For example, in the June 2024 BTO exercise, you could only choose between these few estates. Resale, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. You can have your pick of location of anywhere in the island. You have a mix of old units and new units, and as long as the project has fulfilled its 5 years MOP, you have a good chance of securing a unit there. The next will be the age of the unit. Naturally, BTOs will be newer. With a BTO, everything will be brand new as the unit and the project is newly built, and you will be the first. Besides just the unit being new, the facilities and the whole project will be brand new as well. Now, this is not always a good thing. In an extreme case like here in Tengah, because the estate was so new, there were many complaints about the state of it. With a resale unit, on the other hand, it will not be brand new for sure. At best, the unit will be 5 years old, but the exact state and age will depend a lot on which project you choose. Lastly, similar to the age but not exactly the same, would be the remaining lease that you would have. For a brand new BTO, you would have a fresh 99-year lease. A resale unit's lease, however, would vary depending on how old the unit is. Remember how we talked about the price and how we mentioned that a resale unit is generally more expensive? Now, on top of paying more for the unit, you also have to bear in mind that you are getting a less and shorter lease. So you could say that you are actually paying more for less. So that concludes the breakdown of whether you should choose a BTO or a resale HDB. In total, we compared 7 different aspects. We talked about the grants, the waiting time, the control of the timeline, the location, the age, and the lease. Of these 7 different aspects, for your situation, which means the most to you? Let me know in the comment section below. Overall, we saw that the resale unit tends to be more expensive, but you get more options, and more importantly, you can get your unit quicker as well. On the flip side, we saw that the BTO unit was a lot cheaper, but you have a lot less options, and you have a lot less control over which unit you get. And furthermore, you would almost be guaranteed to have to wait about 2 to 3 years to get your unit. So if I could sum up this whole video, it would be with these 3 points. For a HDB between a resale and a BTO, I think there is no right answer for everybody, but the answer becomes very clear once you know whether you value your time or money. If your focus is on saving money, then go for a BTO. It would be a lot cheaper. If your focus is on saving time, then go for resale HDB. It would be a lot quicker. So that wraps up another video. After watching the video, where do you stand? Are you leaning more towards a resale HDB or are you leaning more towards a BTO? Like I mentioned, there is no right answer, but I would like to know your thoughts on it. See you in the next video and don't forget to like and subscribe.